Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. You guys are sending in such deep, awesome questions. I love it. Let's get started. Let's go and send your questions in. info@ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks. Go ahead, Gila. What you got for me today?
Okay, great questions coming in. Faggy. My husband's brother is getting married in another country, and my husband is insisting that we all go in. I have two under two, and it is just going to be too much for me. Is there any way I can refuse while still respecting him?
It's a great question. Two under two. Oh, wow. So the big question is, how helpful on the plane is your husband? Is he the type that's going to say good luck and he's going to be sleeping and thing? I assume not. I assume he's going to be helping you. I'm not sure I understand if you share. I assume you shared all of your feelings with him. If you've been watching the Ladies Talk Show for a while, you know that's the key. That's the golden honey that you spread on everything is communication and trying to bring it up in a way that isn't to put them on the defensive or make them feel bad or make them make a big to do about it. But I think that if you had a conversation with him, I would think if you had a conversation with him saying, this is so in the too hard basket, if you have two under two, that means probably one is under one, so you're dealing with a baby, to just say, I'm really, really having a hard time. In other words, if you say I'm not going, that's confrontational, that's not very nice. But if you're saying I'm really having a hard time, I don't know what to do, I can't even visualize myself on that plane with two under two, I can't the whole thing just feels so stressful and so big to me. Can you either help me figure out how to mentally prepare myself for it? Secondly, how to logistically, like diaper bags, toys, bringing some a mother's helper with us, or having a mother's help us bring us to the airport and then pick us another one at the destination. Something. What can we do to ratchet down my stress level about this? So if you, again, for those of you listening, I'm taking my hand and putting in a cup and I'm handing the problem to my husband, putting it in his lap and saying, what can we do about this? Help me with this. That's the way to go with this. It's a great question, but you got to put it in your husband's lap. Be honest with him. Be honest with him about how you feel and how hard it is. Don't just, I'm not doing it. Be honest with him. Tell him your emotions and your feelings and have him help you on logistics. Good question. Go ahead. What you got?
Okay, perfect. Next question, Haley. I keep telling my husband not to bring up stressful topics before bedtime. And every night he brings up things like credit card bills or that I didn't clean the fruit bin or fill out the insurance form. Why do I always have to tell my husband the same thing over and over again?
Right. So for that, maybe you take they used to have these things where you hold the thing and it's got a flip and it says different signs and you can hold it up in the car and it says you're driving too fast, whatever. You need one of those that says bedtime, hello, quiet time, no stress time. If you can in any way, shape, or form make a joke about it or lighten-hearted with about it, not now, dear, or whatever, that would be the ideal way to handle the situation. I get a lot of questions about why a woman has to repeat something to her husband again and again and again. Like women are mad about it. Like I should tell him once, twice, maybe three times at the most, and then he should just be a new human being. My question for you is, does that work with yourself? Like if I would say, don't eat the cheesecake, don't eat the cheesecake, don't eat the fourth time, would you just not eat the cheesecake? No, in other words, that's how human beings are. So don't be mad at yourself. Don't be mad at him. Women are very, very reluctant to give their husband the reminders because they don't want to end up being that nag lady, right? None of us want to be a nag. Oh, what is that? Nag who's a hag or whatever. You don't want to be that person. So the crucial thing here is to let him know, say, I don't want to be a nag. What do I do? I've told you so many times, like at night, I need to shut my brain down. So maybe he needs reminders. Maybe you need to say, okay, whatever time you're heading to bed. Okay, I'm heading to bed. I know I probably will be reading or this and that for the next hour, but I'm heading to bed. It's now time to stop with any stressful conversations, maybe that's the reminder he needs. But I would talk with him and I would say, what should I do not to be the nag? But when you bring those up, it makes me feel unheard. It makes me feel unvalidated. It makes me feel like you don't care. So many things happen when you are bringing these stressful topics up when I've told you a million times. So I would handle it by having a conversation with him and asking him how he wants you to handle it in a way that doesn't, you say, I don't want to be a nag. So I'm either going to buy one of those flip things, or I'm going to, put a Post-it note and put it on my forehead, or I'm going to shout out to you, okay, going to bed, or I'm going to put a reminder on your phone that pops up and says, no more, this is the best idea, actually, no more stressful questions to wifey poo, like that. That's going to come up on your phone. Maybe he doesn't have that kind of a phone, but something, or alarm, you put alarm so that's right by his, that only rings. And when that ring rings, that's the ring that means no more stressful things. So you got to get creative. You got to think of outside the box of what's going to solve it. Solving it logistically is what is wanted here, not solving it by trying to change him and make him listen to you one time forever. And that's how he should be. So you got to figure out a logistic solution. Good luck to you. Okay, good. Go ahead, Gayla.
We haven't had a question like this one in a while, so I'm excited to hear an answer. Zahava's asking, my husband pushes me to dress in a not so tznius way, and it's a big point of contention in our marriage. He doesn't find it essential, and when I do dress tznius, he gets frustrated that I'm dressing too yeshivish. How would you recommend I deal with this?
I would cry. That's very hard. It's very hard. We did deal with this a few years ago. I don't even remember what I said. I hope I said something smart, but I don't know. That's such a challenge. I think the way to a man's heart is speaking from your heart. And we know this from Chazal. And I think that if you were to sit down with him and say, I just don't know what to do. The only reason I can think that you want me to dress not tzniusly is because, maybe this puts him on a defensive. So maybe say it a little differently. Say, I'm wondering why you want me to dress not tzniusly. There could be a lot of reasons. It could be you think I look better. It could be that you want to impress your friends on how, good looking your wife is. It could be that you are rebellious about the rabbis who were not nice to you in junior high school. I'm making, whatever. His history. I don't. I'm sort of grabbing at straws right now, but it could be because all my sisters-in-law dress that way. It could be, you keep throwing out what you think are potential reasons that he feels that way. There's something that's driving him to want you to do something that's against not only against halacha, but against what you yourself wants. It's not coming from a good place or from a healthy place. So
I'm wondering also, what if he's just in the workplace and he's seeing beautiful ladies every day?
okay, yeah. So that's another option, or is it because you're seeing beautiful ladies and then you come home to me and I'm all covered head to toe? What is driving it? And the reason I'm asking you, dear sweet husband, is because I want to understand why you have that desire, what's driving it. And maybe it's conscious reasons, maybe it's subconscious, maybe in the back of your mind, you have such stuff. And by discussing it with me together, we can peel away the onions and sort of see what is driving your feelings about it. But the bottom line is I really wished we could come up with a solution that makes you very, very happy and that is survivable for me, because it's just too hard for me, and I don't know what to do at this point. This is something that it might be too touchy and too difficult for the two of you to solve this, just the two of you together. It might mean you need a third party, whether that's a Rav or a Rebbitzin or somebody you both trust, or a mother or a mother-in-law. So somebody you all get along with and that you've had these types of conversations with before about challenging issues. If nobody comes to mind, then it might be a therapist or a hired professional, a social worker, a rabbi or a rebbitzin who's trained in these kind of matters. But the bottom line is you really need to come together and have an understanding. This can't be a bone of contention that goes on for 20 years of him being mad and you feeling invalidated for having the feelings that you feel. You got to solve it, and you need his help to solve it. You need to say, look, we've got this issue. You feel one way, I feel the other way. And there, maybe there's a middle ground. You can come up and get creative and come up with a middle ground together. Maybe he wants you to, wear short sleeves and you wear just covering the elbow, and you like to wear them, with a cuff sleeve and whatever, so maybe there's little side things you can do. But leaning towards thinking it needs a third party. Okay, best of luck to you. Go, Gila.
Okay, Fasia's asking, in the beginning of our marriage, I was depressed and didn't do a good job of running the home. Now, my biggest fear is for my husband to think I can't run a home well. I recently had a baby, and although I'm struggling and trying to keep it all up with the home, I feel like I need to prove to my husband that I can run the home and I won't fall apart. But I am falling apart.
No. First of all, we all collectively give you one giant hug. Okay, here's the hug. Okay, we get you. I hear you. Okay, so here's the thing: is you have to know this for yourself, and then somehow figure out a way to kindly express it to your husband, which is a woman's life goes up and down and whatever. Sometimes you have 3 kids under 3. Sometimes, you're an empty nester and are bored out of your mind. That's how life is. It's just these weird cycles that Hashem brings us through. And, your self-worth and how much you feel your husband cares for you and loves you cannot be dependent on how good of a housewife you are, how good of a cleaner you are. If it was, nobody would stay married because, hello, it's like, whatever. Life is just this cycle of craziness. So, and frenzy. We're the most frenzied generation in history. So I'm a little concerned because there's something you're saying that kind of makes me feel like is it self-worth the right? Your identity is wrapped up in how good of a housewife you are. And that's really window dressing. What's more important, and this you need to know for yourself and then share it with your husband. What's more important is for you to know that you are a good human being, that you work hard to do the right thing, that you focus your energies on trying to do mitzvahs, that you try and be a good mom and try and be, most importantly, a good wife, and then you try and be a good mom, you're making efforts in trying to be the best you possibly can and fulfilling your shlemus as best you can. And
Also, Leah, she just birthed a new baby. I mean,
yeah,
that's tremendous on its own.
totally hard on herself. And so your whole aspect needs to look at yourself in a that you're good enough. You've got this thing, I'm not good enough, in your mind. So you also have to understand that after a baby, your ability to discern this, to even have this conversation, is almost compromised, because only part of some of the stuff I'm saying is probably even going in. But what I'm trying to tell you is that you yourself have to feel okay that you're a good person, and that your self-worth is not dependent on that. And then you need to share that with your husband. And that is just, again, you're writing a journal, you're thinking about it, you're not just blurting out, you're thinking about how you can say it in a way your husband can hear. And then you're saying something like, in your own words, knowing your own husband and saying, I want you to know something. I don't know whether this is your thinking that affected me or my own thinking that's affecting myself, but I feel like, your opinion of me, whether I'm a good cleaner or a not, quote unquote, not good cleaner or whatever, I feel judged. I feel judged by myself, and I feel judged by you. And I'd like to remove that dynamic from my life if we can, if you can help me work on it, so that you always know when you come home, no matter what the house is looking for, like, I tried. I either feel badly that there's toys all over the stairs, or I wished I did it, or I did clean it, or whatever. It's not like I'm just, putting my feet up and forgetting it. I'm on it. I just can't. So my self-worth and my identity and my value to you as a wife cannot be dependent on that. How can we actualize that in our daily life? Can you not tell me, why is the place a mess? I don't know if he's doing that, but whatever. And then figure out actions that the two of you can take to bolster your new self-image without it having to depend on that. Do it now while your kids are young, so that you won't spend the next 20 years feeling badly about yourself. Okay, great question. Okay, go ahead.
My husband often dismisses my feelings and opinions when whenever I try to discuss something important with him. How can I communicate my needs more effectively and get him to listen and validate my perspective? Every time I bring this up, he dismisses me and changes the subject.
So read the first sentence again.
My husband often dismisses my feelings and opinions whenever I try to discuss something important with him. Like he's not taking account her feelings about it and he's dismissive.
Mm-hmm. Um, you might need a third party because if you're trying to have a conversation with him and he's not listening to your conversation about listening to your conversation, you know what I mean? It's like a loop to loop. I can't think of how you would get him to hear. I mean, look, some guys are different types of learnings. Maybe it is if you wrote him a big long letter, like a 3-page single spaced letter of saying, you know, when I told you about 3 years ago, I told you how upsetting it was to me that in front of the principal, you said that your wife was a terrible student, you know, or something. I don't know, whatever it is, you know, and then you did this and then, you know, not building a case against him because that is always going to backfire, but just pointing out to him how you felt dismissed. I'm just wondering if you put it in writing, then it feels more real. Maybe if you're able to do it and then share it with him in a soft way, it might be too hard for you to do something when it's so emotionally painful. I think this is a case, I think you need a third party to be able to help, because if he's not listening, it means either that he didn't listen when he was a kid, nobody listened to him, so that's how he learned how to interact with people, or it means that you told him things that were so painful, now he just shuts you out because you haven't been communicating with him in a way that is that he can hear. We're too harsh. I mean, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying there are consequences to all actions, and that could be, it could be. I'm throwing out crazy ideas to have you introspect to try and figure out what could have caused this in the first place, because that can often help us to figure out how to unravel it and fix it. Especially if you can have a good conversation with him about it. So the bottom line is that try and get help with this, try and analyze it in your own mind, what might have caused this and created this, and then make a plan of action. If you see that you might be able to handle it, then maybe it's worth a try, as long as you can do it softly and sweetly. If you see that, oh my gosh, this is just a big mess, get third party help. Okay. And the way you do that is you might ask around, you might look, sometimes there's things that get sent around in different groups or whatever that say, oh, get help or something like that, and try and find somebody that way, or ask your Rav or your Rebbitzin or a close confidant. Okay, what you got for me, Gila?
Okay, great. So Mira's asking, my husband gets happier when other people praise him, even if it's quick or a simple comment. I try to compliment him a lot and it doesn't seem to affect him. Is there something wrong with our relationship that my praise doesn't mean as much to him?
No, I think that's a natural human thing. Like, in other words, if your husband say, "Oh, you look lovely. Oh, you look lovely. Oh, you look lovely today. Oh, you look lovely," whatever, you say, "Oh, that's nice." It just feels good or whatever. But then if you're somewhere and someone says, you're at a chassan and someone says, "Oh, you look like a model," right? That's going to stand out in your mind. You're going to remember that the rest of your life. Hush v'shalom, we shouldn't seek to look like a model, but I'm just saying, something that is like a glamour comment to you. So I don't think it's unusual that outside compliments mean more to him than what you say. He's used to you, you're there all the time, so I don't think it says anything about your relationship. However, you might work on saying compliments that are a little bit more elaborate. That might up the game a little. But good on you that you're doing lots of compliments. It's great. Fantastic. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Dina's asking, I feel like my husband prioritizes his work and hobbies over spending quality time with me. When I discuss it with him, he tells me that work is needed for Parnassa and then he needs to relax because work is so stressful. How can I fit into his life to get the time with him that I need?
Yeah, that's not an easy one, especially if you've talked to him about it before. Um, I think you have to sit down in the nicest manner that you can and set up a schedule. Sunday mornings. Motzei Shabbos, after Shabbos meal, just pick one time a week where you guys have an hour together. Then when you get that hour together, and tell him, that's if he says, what do you want for our anniversary, say, or what do you want for your birthday? That's what I want for my birthday, something like that. Really impress upon him how important that is to you. And then when you have the hour, make it as awesome for him as possible. So it doesn't have to always be that way for for 52 weeks of the year, for every time you're together, but for the first like 5 times, make it awesome. So like, let's say his hobby is collecting baseball cards. I don't know, making this up, and you could care less, like you think it's the stupidest thing in the world, but that's his hobby and there's a new one, whatever. So in that first hour that you're with him, ask him about the baseball cards. Find out something, like, oh, well, if you have Mickey Mantle and you have making up I don't know, those are the only ones I know from ancient history, whatever, the big famous ones I don't. But, if you had this one, why didn't you trade it for that one? And, ask him questions. The way to closeness to your husband is asking questions and then listening. So if you make that hour great for him, he'll want to spend more time with you. Does that mean that in the first 3, 5, 7 special times that you have with him, does that mean that you're going to be spending most of the time talking about him and less time talking about you? Yes. It'll hopefully even out over time, but if you make it great for him, he'll be doubly motivated to be with you and spend that time with you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
We have time for one more. Okay. Toby is asking, I feel like I'm always the one making compromises and sacrifices in our marriage, while my husband remains inflexible. How can I get him to meet me more towards the halfway mark?
Excellent. So if you are always listening to his side of the things, right? But then holding your ground on the things that are super important to you, like, if he wants to buy this car and you want to buy that car and you're like, no, this is a better car. Let him buy the other car. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like it's no skin off your nose. Yes, this one you chose is a better model, better make, better track record, blah, 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 blah. The bottom line is if the decision has bracha, because there's shalom, this car, which is a worse make and for all the logical reasons shouldn't be good, it'll drive better. So on money, as many decisions as you can just completely let go, even if you're right, especially if you're right, just let go. Not important. Now, if there's another decision, you're trying to determine which school the kid goes to, right? It's a big, heavy duty discussion. There are some Rebbeim who'll say, what do whatever your husband wants. Again, woman has bini Sarah, woman's intuition. A woman can, have a sense, but a woman can also be wrong. I mean, it could be, you want to send to this school because they're bullies over here. And if you sent him to the school with the bullies, there's another kid there who isn't a bully, who is a very, very dedicated student. And that would be the best influence for your son's life. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? You have a lot of reasons, but Hashem runs the world and he could make anything happen. So the bottom line is, on a decision like that, even though it feels so hefty and feels so important and feels so you feel so valid and correct in what you're thinking, let Hashem take care of it. It's more important for you to go for shalom, even if that means that you're doing not the right decision. So I would ease up and let your husband make those kinds of decisions. Again, the more you acquiesce and give up on the things that are not important, the more say you will have when it's really, really important to you. So that's the key thing to keep in mind. And if none of that works and you're still feeling like not heard, then you should sit down and have a conversation with your husband and say, listen, I'm not sure what to do because I feel like I'm not heard. I feel like I don't have an opinion. I feel like I'm not, feel like I have no voice. I need to have a voice. And that hopefully he can hear, and you can share why and the rationale and say, look, I'll do it your way if you're going to push me on it. But I also feel like, I've been a Sarah and I feel like I'm not being listened to. And hopefully that'll change his heart. Okay, that's all we have time for, right? Okay, good luck with that, by the way. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. I'm going to give you your homework. And that is one time this week when you can't, there's a decision or a conflict or whatever, let it go and just let your husband have his will. and realize that bracha from Shemayim is coming down and filling your home. Don't do it with something that's really crucial and that you're going to resent and feel bad and regret and wish you hadn't and whatever, but just pick something very, very little and let it go. Okay, this is Leah Bedtime, and we'll see you next week.